Stickum. Stickum was supposed to be a relic of the past, a banned substance from the 1970s that no modern player would ever dare touch again. But Dwight Howard brought it back like it was a secret weapon, coating his hands with the sticky stuff during warm-ups and then heading straight into games. Opponents felt something was wrong the moment the ball clung to their palms longer than it should, and Paul Millsap was the first to call it out when he grabbed a ball that felt like it had been dipped in syrup. The NBA had banned Stickum decades earlier because it created an unfair grip advantage and turned ball handling into a cheat code. Yet Howard admitted he used it regularly without thinking twice. The controversy exposed how some players will push boundaries for even the slightest edge, and what comes next makes that even crazier. Number 69. Most banned accessories are physical items, but the number 69 is the rare rule that exists entirely because of perception. The NBA never officially wrote it down, yet everyone knows it is off limits. Dennis Rodman tried wearing it when he joined the Mavericks, but the league shut it down immediately, claiming it would distract audiences and undermine the professional image of the sport. Fans found the whole situation hilarious, but the NBA treated it like a threat to its brand identity. Even today, with players wearing every hairstyle, tattoo, and fashion statement imaginable, the number remains forbidden. It is a silent reminder that the league controls even the smallest details of presentation, and players know better than to push that boundary. But what happens when innovation threatens the game itself is even more surprising. APL Sneakers. APL Sneakers looked like any other performance shoe, but inside the sole was a secret that shook the league. The company built a spring-loaded system called Load and Launch, a design that promised instant vertical gains for anyone who laced them up. Independent tests showed players jumping several inches higher, which made the shoes feel less like footwear and more like a built-in trampoline. The NBA reviewed them in 2010 and immediately banned them before a single player ever used them in a game. The league claimed they created an unfair athletic advantage, making them the only shoe in history prohibited for being too effective. APL brilliantly leaned into the ban, stamping "banned by the NBA" on the packaging, which turned the sneakers into a viral sensation. The league had drawn a hard line on technology, and the next banned item came from a place no one expected: Ninja Headbands. When players began tying Ninja Headbands before games, it felt like a new era of style had arrived. The long tails whipping behind players like Jimmy Butler and De'Aaron Fox made them look fast even when they were standing still, and fans loved the dramatic flair they brought to every possession. The NBA, however, moved quickly to kill the trend. Officials argued the loose fabric posed a safety issue and had not gone through proper approval testing, but players believed the real problem was image control. The league feared a wave of unregulated accessories that might undermine uniform consistency, and the Ninja Headband was the first casualty. Overnight, they vanished from the court, leaving fans wondering how something so harmless became such a big deal. And the next accessory forced the NBA to tighten rules even further: long tights. Before compression gear became standard, long tights were considered controversial, and the NBA reacted fast when players started wearing them beneath their shorts. The league initially threatened to ban them outright, claiming they disrupted uniform balance and created a visual inconsistency on broadcasts. Players responded by getting doctors to write notes, explaining that the tights improved circulation and reduced injury risk. And this medical loophole forced the NBA to allow them. What started as a restrictive rule turned into a widespread trend, but the league still monitors thickness, length, and color to this day. The entire saga revealed how athletes can bend rules by pushing medical exemptions, and teams quietly encouraged it to gain even the slightest edge. But the next accessory went after something the NBA valued even more than uniform consistency: Supreme sleeve. Kelly Oubre never expected his Supreme compression sleeve to cause trouble. It had the NBA logo, the Nike logo, and looked like any other piece of equipment, just with the iconic red Supreme branding splashed across the side. But that branding was the problem. The league immediately ordered him to remove it, arguing that outside corporate logos threatened its billion-dollar sponsorship ecosystem. J.R. Smith took things further when he tattooed the Supreme logo on his leg, and the NBA forced him to cover it during games. The rule was clear: no player could promote a company that the league itself had not approved. What seemed like harmless fashion ended up exposing a line players were never meant to cross, and the next ban pushed deeper into the world of controlled presentation: black masks. When LeBron wore his black carbon fiber mask in 2014, he looked like a superhero ready to take over the league. Broadcasters loved it, fans went insane, and the mask instantly became one of the most iconic images of his career. But the NBA panicked. They insisted the mask obscured his eyes and created an unnatural aesthetic for nationally televised games, ordering him to switch to a clear version immediately. The ban was not about safety, it was about optics. The league feared the game looking more theatrical than athletic, and the black mask crossed that line. Since then, every protective face mask must be transparent, no matter how stylish alternatives might be. Yet players never stopped trying to add personal flair, and the next banned accessory proved that individuality always comes with risk. Titanium necklaces. Fine titanium necklaces exploded in popularity in the 2000s, with stars like Carmelo Anthony, Kevin Garnett, and Justin Verlander in baseball claiming the braided strands improved circulation and boosted energy. NBA players wore them constantly, treating them like both a fashion staple and a performance tool. But the league eventually stepped in, citing concerns about on-court jewelry and the possibility of the necklaces snapping during contact. They also worried about players pushing unverified performance products on national broadcasts. Titanium accessories slowly disappeared as the NBA tightened rules on anything worn above the shoulders, and soon even simple chains were scrutinized. The crackdown set the stage for even stricter accessory bans. But first, only cool people are subscribed to this channel, so hit that subscribe button before we go any further. Custom mouthguards. Custom mouthguards seemed harmless at first, but players began turning them into walking billboards. Some added team phrases, others added designs, and a few slipped in unapproved logos that instantly caught the NBA's attention. The league worried that broadcasters would accidentally give free advertising to brands that had never paid for sponsorship, and they feared players using mouthguards to send messages during nationally televised games. Even Steph Curry's playful habit of chewing his guard made it iconic enough that the league tightened oversight. Eventually, they restricted colors, patterns, and any identifiable imagery. Mouthguards had to be plain, clean, and non-distracting. What began as personal expression quickly became another chapter in the NBA's long history of image control, and the regulations only got tighter as players kept finding new ways to customize their gear. But the next item shows how even classic accessories weren't safe from the rulebook: forearm bands. Karl Malone made forearm bands famous, wearing them high near his elbows as part of his bruising style of play. Fans loved the look, but the NBA wasn't convinced. The league believed the higher placement made the bands appear more like decorative accessories than functional equipment, and soon began regulating exactly where they could sit on the arm. Any band worn too high or too thick drew fines, and players were told they had to keep them below the bicep for consistency. The crackdown surprised veterans who had worn them for years without issue, and it revealed how meticulous the NBA had become in shaping uniform presentation. Even minor deviations drew attention from referees who enforced the rules strictly, and as the league kept refining its image standards, the next banned item pushed those boundaries even further: wristbands. Wristbands exploded in popularity during the Allen Iverson era, with players stacking them, enlarging them, and experimenting with bold colors that made them pop on camera. The NBA eventually stepped in, arguing that oversized or mismatched wristbands disrupted the uniform appearance and created potential competitive issues if they slipped during play. They introduced strict guidelines on thickness, color matching, and even exact placement to prevent players from turning wristbands into full-blown fashion statements. Some players tried wearing multiple bands on the same arm or flipping them inside out to hide logos, but officials caught on quickly. The league's stance was clear: accessories had to complement the uniform, not overshadow it. And while players kept pushing for creativity, the next category took that fight to a whole new level: branded tattoos. Tattoos themselves are obviously allowed, but brand logos on tattoos are where the NBA draws a hard line. When J.R. Smith revealed his Supreme tattoo, the league warned him that every game would come with a fine unless he covered it. This wasn't about ink, it was about advertising. The NBA cannot allow any company to gain free exposure without league approval, and a tattoo created a loophole that threatened that control. Several players privately admitted they were told to cover small brand marks years earlier, long before Smith made headlines. The rule forced athletes to tape over designs or apply makeup before tip-off, turning personal art into regulated space. It showed how the NBA's control over branding extends beyond uniforms and even onto players' skin. But as the rules expanded, even protective gear wasn't safe from scrutiny. Kevlar undershirts. After a string of hard fouls and mid-air collisions, some players began experimenting with Kevlar reinforced undershirts to reduce impact. The material offered legitimate protection, but the NBA rejected it because the bulky padding created uneven silhouettes that disrupted uniform consistency. Officials also worried about the shirts giving physical advantages by absorbing contact better than standard gear. Even thinner armored shirts were denied unless they passed strict approval testing. The decision frustrated players who saw it as a basic safety measure, yet the league remained firm. Uniforms had to look clean, tight, and TV friendly. The Kevlar band became a symbol of how far the NBA would go to maintain presentation, and the next item took that obsession into futuristic territory. Tinted visors. The idea of a tinted visor in basketball sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, and that's exactly the problem the NBA had with it. A few players tested early prototypes to reduce glare from arena lights, but the moment officials saw them, the idea was shut down. The league said tinted visors hid players' eyes and created a competitive imbalance, but the deeper issue was optics. The NBA didn't want the sport looking like a crossover between football and RoboCop. Even clear visors required approval, and none ever became standard gear. The rule became another example of innovation hitting a wall when it threatened the league's preferred aesthetic. And just when players thought they had found every loophole, the next category revealed one more surprising layer of control. Experimental gear. Players and brands constantly test new gear behind the scenes, from enhanced padding to lightweight exoskeleton-style prototypes designed to boost speed or reduce fatigue. Almost all of it gets rejected before the public ever hears about it. The NBA maintains a quiet but strict approval system that blocks items deemed too advantageous, too distracting, or too unfamiliar for televised games. Some prototypes even included shock-absorbing sleeves and microsensors designed to track biometric data in real time, but concerns over fairness and privacy shut those ideas down quickly. The league's desire to balance innovation with tradition means most experimental gear never reaches the court, no matter how impressive the technology might be. It shows how tightly the NBA guards the boundaries of its image and how players constantly search for an edge within those limits. If you like this video, consider watching this next one, which YouTube thinks you're going to really love.